My girlfriend announced, "I'm quitting my job to be an influencer. You'll pay for everything while I find myself." I replied, "Sounds like a plan." Then I cashed out her entire joint savings account to cover our rent for the year. She texted me from the airport lounge in Bali that her bank card wasn't working. I was at home looking at the bank receipt showing where I'd spent the money from our joint account. 21,000, her half, all gone to prepaid bills. Let me go back 3 weeks to when this started. I got home from work on a Tuesday and found Cassie sitting on the couch with her laptop. She had that look, the one where she's already decided something and is just waiting to tell me. I'd seen it before when she made big announcements. This time felt bigger. She closed the laptop and said we needed to talk about her career. I sat down and listened. She explained that her job at the marketing firm was draining her soul, that she wasn't living authentically, that she'd been working with a life coach who helped her realize her true calling was content creation and being an influencer. I asked, "What kind of content?" She said lifestyle content, travel, wellness, daily routines. Her life coach told her she had the perfect energy for it. She just needed to commit fully. I asked about money. She said that's what she wanted to discuss. She was quitting her job to focus on building her brand. It would take 6 months to a year to really get established and start earning. During that time, I'd need to cover all our expenses. She'd contribute by managing the household and creating content. I asked if she was serious. She said completely serious that this was her dream, and I needed to support it. That couples support each other through career changes. I asked about her half of the bills. She said bills were just material concerns, and I needed to think bigger picture about investing in our future together. We've been together for 3 years, living together for 1. She made decent money at her job, about the same as me. We split everything 50-50, rent, utilities, groceries. It worked fine. Now she wanted me to bankroll her Instagram dreams while she found herself. I asked how much she'd saved up for this transition. She said that wasn't the point, that her savings were for business investments, equipment, clothes for content, maybe travel for location shoots. She couldn't use that money for boring stuff like rent. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, "Sounds like a plan." She seemed surprised I agreed so easily, asked if I was sure. I said, "Absolutely. Follow your dreams. I'd handle the finances." She hugged me and said I was amazing, that she'd make this worth it, that when she was successful, I'd see this was the right decision. That weekend, she quit her job, posted something long on social media about choosing authenticity over security, about betting on herself. Her friends all commented with support. "Lots of you go, girl, and so proud of you" comments. Monday morning, while she was at a coffee shop planning her content strategy, I went to the bank. We had a joint savings account we'd opened about 18 months ago. The plan was to save for a down payment on a house eventually. We each put in $500 a month. She deposited about $12,000 when we opened it from her previous savings. I'd contributed about $9,000 over time. Current balance was around $42,000. The account was set up as joint with rights of survivorship. Both of us could withdraw without the other's signature. I pulled out $21,000, exactly half, had it transferred to my personal checking account, left $21,000 in the joint account. Then I started making payments. Our rent was $1,700 a month. I contacted our landlord and asked if I could prepay rent for the year. He said absolutely. Loved the idea of guaranteed income. I wrote him a check from the joint account for $20,400, 12 months at $1,700. He gave me a signed receipt showing we were paid through the following November. Then I looked at utilities. Most companies have policies about prepaying. I called the internet provider. They let me prepay 6 months maximum. Paid $300 from the joint account. Electric company, same policy, 6 months max. Our average bill was about $90 monthly. Paid $540 total. Gas and water were similar. Each let me prepay up to 6 months. By the end of that Monday, I'd spent roughly $21,000 from the joint account, all on our shared expenses. Rent secured for a year, utilities covered for 6 months, her half of the bills handled just like she wanted. I saved every receipt, every confirmation email, put it all in a folder on my computer and backed it up. Cassie came home that evening excited about her content strategy. She'd mapped out her aesthetic, ordered a ring light and a new phone gimbal, said she was meeting with a photographer later that week for professional shots. I asked how much. She said $800, but it was an investment in her brand. I said that sounded good. She seemed happy I was being supportive. Over the next week, she spent money constantly. New clothes for content, a skincare routine that cost $300 because her skin needed to look good on camera, subscriptions to editing apps, a designer bag for outfit content. Every few days, she'd mention something else she needed for her brand. I'd nod and she'd buy it from the joint account. 2 weeks after she quit her job, she announced she was going to Bali, said her life coach recommended it, that she needed travel content and Bali was perfect for her brand. Beaches, temples, wellness retreats, very on brand, she said. I asked how long. She said 2 weeks. I asked how much. She said around 4,000 total flights, nice hotel, activities to film, all content investments. She'd pay from the joint account. I told her to have an amazing trip, that this sounded perfect for her brand. She was excited. I was being so supportive. Said when she came back with all this content, her following would explode. She left on a Friday morning. I drove her to the airport. She was so excited she barely looked at me when she got out. Just grabbed her bags and rushed inside. I went home and pulled up my tracking spreadsheet. Rent prepaid through the following November. Utilities prepaid through July. Total spent from the joint account was $21,000, her half of the original $42,000 balance. Meanwhile, she'd been spending equipment and supplies over 2 weeks came to about $6,000. Her Bali trip was $4,000, total of $10,000. Spent by her from what remained in the joint account after I withdrew my half. The math worked out to roughly $11,000 left in the account, but she hadn't been checking the balance regularly, just swiping the card whenever she needed something for her brand. Saturday morning, I got a text. She'd landed and Bali was beautiful. Sent me a picture of her hotel room. Very nice, looked expensive. Sunday, she posted her first travel content. Professional shot of her on a beach at sunset. Caption about following your dreams and living authentically. Got maybe 200 likes from friends and family. Monday, she posted more temple visit, fancy breakfast, yoga on the beach. Her follower count went up by about 50 people. Tuesday afternoon, my phone started buzzing. Multiple calls from Cassie. I was at work in a meeting, so I let them go to voicemail. Then texts started coming through. Her card declined. The joint account card. She tried to pay for a spa treatment. It got declined. She checked the app. The balance showed $11,000. That couldn't be right. There should be way more. What was going on? I texted back during a break, said the balance was correct, that she'd spent about $10,000 in 2 weeks, and I'd withdrawn my half of the savings before she started her spending. What was left was hers. My phone immediately started ringing again. I sent it to voicemail. Another meeting starting. She called 4 more times over the next hour. Finally, I texted her. Said I was at work and would explain everything later, that she should check her email. I was sending her a detailed breakdown. The email had a spreadsheet attached. Every transaction from the joint account since she quit her job. Her photography session, her equipment purchases, her new wardrobe, her skincare products, her software subscriptions, her Bali trip expenses running total showing about $10,000 spent by her. Then a separate section, my withdrawal of $21,000. Explanation that I'd taken exactly half of the account balance. Then the list of what I'd spent it on. Rent prepaid through November. Internet prepaid through July. Electric prepaid through July. Gas prepaid through July. Water prepaid through July. Total approximately $21,000. A note at the bottom. She'd asked me to pay for everything while she built her brand, so I paid for everything. Our shared living expenses for the next several months using her portion of the joint savings just like she'd suggested. She called again immediately. I was finally done with meetings, so I answered. She was screaming before I even said hello. Said I'd stolen her money, that I had no right, that she needed that money for her business, that I'd sabotaged her dream deliberately. I said I didn't steal anything, that I withdrew my own funds from a joint account, which was completely legal, that I then spent her portion on our shared bills, which she'd said she couldn't contribute to anymore, that everything was documented and she was welcome to review all receipts. She said I knew that money was for her business. I said she never specified that. She said paying rent a year in advance was insane. Nobody does that. I said our landlord was happy to accept it, that I'd gotten a receipt, that we didn't have to worry about rent for months now. She said I'd ruined everything, that she couldn't finish her trip properly, that she couldn't create the content she'd planned. I said she still had $11,000. That should cover the rest of her 2 weeks in Bali, plus plenty more. She said it wasn't enough, that she'd had other plans. I suggested coming home early, saving what she had left. She said I was being cruel, that I knew how important this was. I said I did know. That's why I made sure our bills were covered so she wouldn't have to worry. She hung up. Her friend Melissa texted me an hour later, said I was being unreasonable, that Cassie was having a breakdown in her hotel in a foreign country because I'd stolen her money. I sent Melissa the spreadsheet, showed every transaction, every receipt, proved I'd withdrawn my own money, and spent her portion on shared bills. Melissa didn't text back after that. Cassie came home 4 days later instead of 2 weeks. She'd cut the trip short and used a credit card for the flight change. Came through the door, furious, started yelling immediately. Said I'd humiliated her, that she'd had to tell everyone she was cutting her trip short because of an emergency, that her content strategy was destroyed. I asked why she didn't just tell people her budget changed. She said that would make her look unprofessional, like she couldn't plan properly. I said she couldn't plan properly. She'd spent $10,000 in 2 weeks without tracking her balance. She said those were business expenses. I said business expenses still need budgets. She said I didn't understand entrepreneurship, that sometimes you have to invest heavily at first. I said investing is fine, but the money was meant for our shared future. She said I'd agreed to support her dream. I said I was supporting her. All our bills were covered for months. She had no expenses except her personal things. She could get a part-time job to fund her influencer work. She said that defeated the whole purpose, that she needed full-time focus on content. I told her that wasn't my problem, that I'd done my part, that she'd made choices with her money and now had to live with them. She moved into the spare room that night, said she couldn't look at me. I was fine with that. The next few days, she was on her phone constantly, complaining to friends about me. I could hear her through the wall, telling them I'd sabotaged her, that I'd stolen her savings, that I was controlling and financially abusive. Her friend group started messaging me saying I needed to fix this, that Cassie had sacrificed her career and I destroyed her chance. I sent them all the same spreadsheet. Most stopped messaging after seeing the actual numbers. Her life coach called me, said Cassie was in a vulnerable state and needed support. I told the life coach that Cassie was an adult who made decisions about her own money, that I'd supported those decisions by ensuring our bills were paid. The life coach said I was being overly literal and not emotionally present, that Cassie needed emotional support, not financial logic. I said emotional support didn't pay rent. Hung up. Cassie tried changing tactics after a week. Came out of the spare room and said we needed to talk. Sat down and said she'd been thinking that maybe she'd moved too fast, that maybe she should have kept her job and done the influencer thing on the side first. I agreed that would have been smarter. She said she wanted to fix things. Asked if I'd help her financially to finish building her foundation. Just a few thousand more to really establish things properly. I said no. She got angry. Said I was being petty and vindictive, that I was punishing her for chasing her dreams. I said I wasn't punishing anyone, that she'd chased her dreams using her money, and now her money was mostly gone. That was just reality. She said we were supposed to be partners, that partners help each other. I said partners also communicate before making life-changing financial decisions, that partners don't announce they're quitting their income and expect the other person to fund everything indefinitely. She started crying, said I didn't believe in her, that if I loved her, I'd want her to succeed. I said I did want her to succeed, just not with my money funding it. She called me heartless and went back to the spare room. 2 weeks after Bali, she started job hunting. Posted on LinkedIn that she was exploring new opportunities. Didn't mention the influencer career. Her Bali posts were still up on Instagram, but she wasn't posting new content. Her follower count had settled around 400 followers after spending $10,000 and quitting her job. Not exactly a great return on investment. She got some interviews, started wearing work clothes again, looked miserable every time she left the apartment. One evening she came home and said she had an offer. Different marketing firm, similar role to her old job, slightly less pay, started in 2 weeks. I said that was good news. She said it wasn't good news, that she was giving up on her dream. I said she was being realistic. She said I'd destroyed her confidence, that she couldn't pursue her passion anymore because I'd made sure she couldn't afford to. I reminded her she'd spent $10,000 in 2 weeks, that even if I hadn't touched the money, she'd have burned through everything in a few months anyway. She said that was different, that she'd have had time to start monetizing. I said 400 followers wasn't monetizing anything. She didn't have a response to that. She moved out 6 weeks after the Bali trip. Said she couldn't stay with someone who didn't support her. Got an apartment with 2 roommates. Took all her stuff, including the ring light and equipment she'd bought. I helped her move because I'm not a complete jerk. Her last words to me were that she hoped I was happy with myself, that I'd crushed her dreams. To prove a point, I said I'd proved that bills need to be paid regardless of dreams. She slammed the door. That was 4 months ago. Now I still have the apartment, still have another 8 months of prepaid rent. The utilities are still prepaid. I'm saving a ton of money since I'm not splitting bills with anyone. Cassie's Instagram is still active, but she barely posts. Last thing was 3 weeks ago. A quote about rising from setbacks got 40 likes. Her bio still says content creator, but also lists her marketing job. Her friend Melissa sent me a message last month. Said Cassie was struggling with her roommates and money was tight. Asked if I'd consider helping her out. I said no. Melissa said I was cold. I said Cassie made her choices. Melissa blocked me. I ran into Cassie's life coach at a coffee shop a few weeks ago. She recognized me and came over. Said she hoped I'd learned something from this experience, that supporting a partner's dreams was important. I said I'd learned that paying rent in advance was actually pretty convenient. She walked away shaking her head. Someone from Cassie's friend group posted something vague on social media about people who sabotage others. Didn't name me, but it was obvious. Said, some people can't handle when their partner wants to grow and evolve. That small-minded people hold back visionaries. A mutual friend messaged me asking what really happened. I sent him the spreadsheet. He responded that Cassie had told everyone a very different story, that I'd stolen her money and abandoned her in Bali. I told him he could believe whatever he wanted, but I had receipts for everything. He said the receipts showed I'd technically done what I said, but it was still a jerk move. I asked him if he'd be cool with his girlfriend quitting her job and expecting him to pay all her bills indefinitely while she became an influencer. He said that was different. I asked how. He stopped responding. My brother thinks it's hilarious. Says I should have just broken up with her when she announced the plan. I said this way was more educational. He says I'm petty. Maybe true. My mom asked what happened with Cassie. I gave her the overview. She said I could have handled it differently, that I should have just said no directly. I said I did say no, just in a way that taught a lesson. Mom said that was manipulative, possibly, but it worked. Would I do it again? Probably yes. Could I have just ended things when she quit? Sure. But then she'd spend years telling everyone I didn't support her dreams, that I killed her chance at success. This way, she spent her own money on her dream. I protected mine. And when it collapsed, she couldn't really blame me. Well, she tried, but anyone looking at the numbers could see what actually happened. The apartment is peaceful now. No ring lights in the living room. No content planning sessions at the kitchen table. No talk about authentic living while expecting me to bankroll it. I started seeing someone new a few months ago. She has a regular job she enjoys. Makes her own money. Pays her own way. When I told her about Cassie on our 4th date, she laughed and said that was wild. Said she couldn't imagine asking someone to fund a career that didn't exist yet. I said I couldn't imagine asking either. We're doing well. Cassie texted me 2 weeks ago. Said she'd been reflecting on everything. That she understood now why I did what I did. That she'd been unrealistic and unfair. That she should have planned better. Almost sounded like an actual apology. Then she asked if I'd consider trying again. That she'd learned from her mistakes. That she was more grounded now. More practical. I didn't respond. Some people don't get second chances. My rent goes back to normal next month. 1,700 like always. My utilities are just regular billing now. My savings are growing since I'm not splitting costs. Things are good. Sometimes I check Cassie's Instagram out of curiosity. Still says content creator in the bio. Last post was 10 days ago. A selfie with a generic caption about perseverance. 29 likes. That $10,000 investment really paid.